What's going on, guys? Welcome into the channel. I've now played Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 2022 for quite an extensive period of time, completed the campaign, completed co-op missions, and leveled myself up to the max. It means it's time to do a review of the game and let you know if it's worth your money or not. There's a lot to say about this game. I am going to have a pretty positive outlook on this game because it plays the way Call of Duty should play, in my opinion, and we're going to break that down further as we go along here. The first couple of points that I want to go over will be seen in pretty much every video, every review video that you're going to see out there, and one of those is going to be that the UI in this game is pretty complicated, too complex, and it is not a useful way to navigate the game. They say that they're working on it, they're planning to revamp the UI in this game, but it is a very unfinished product, and that's something that really bothers me about today's gaming market, is how many quote-unquote AAA developers send out games that are not complete at launch. And it's not just the UI of this game, there are other areas that aren't finished within this game as well. One of the biggest issues within this game is the lack of a combat record and the lack of statistics in general for your player, for your operator. One of the biggest driving factors to having an entertaining time on Call of Duty is being able to see your KD and compare it to your friends and compete with your friends on who can get a better KD or who can have a better win-loss ratio. I remember whenever I was playing COD back in the days, my buddies and I got on an 80-plus game winning streak, and we were competing to see how far we could take that winning streak. We wanted to get on every single day to extend that winning streak, and we kept doing that. That was what made Call of Duty fun back in the day, was how could you top what you had done previously? How could you get better? Unfortunately, there's no way to really see that within Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 2022, and it actually drives players to not play the game the way it's meant to be. I've run into a lot of people in multiplayer lobbies that don't even bother to play the objective, don't bother to even really try all that much at all, because they say they can't see their KD, they can't see their win-loss ratio. So what does it matter? What's the point? And just one more note on things not being in the game at launch, I want to just note that Warzone has not been released for the game at the time of making this video. It goes live on November 16th of 2022. This video is made about a week ahead of that, but that's something that should be available at the launch of the game. I know that they're trying to monetize everything. They're trying to get maybe a new influx of players at that point in time. Maybe it's not finished. I don't really know what the issue is there or what the strategy is there, but in my personal opinion, as a AAA game developer, you should be getting better every single year. And unfortunately, the state of gaming right now is that these developers are not getting better every year. They're getting worse every year. They're taking items out of their game. They're giving us less and less each year. They're giving us incomplete products at launch. And so if I were to say, should you buy the game at the launch of Modern Warfare 2, I'd say no. Should you buy the game at the launch of Season 1? That's a different story, because that's when the game will have most of its important pieces in place. Nonetheless, I want to talk about the actual multiplayer gameplay. We'll get on to some campaign and stuff later, just a little bit on that end of things, but mostly people care about multiplayer in this game, right? So let's talk about the various different important aspects of multiplayer and what you're going to be looking for in this game. One of the most important things that I want to say about this game, and a compliment that I can give to this game, is that Infinity Ward has done a nice job of making this game play the way that Call of Duty should play. This is the first time in a long time that I have felt like I'm playing a true Call of Duty game. I'm a Call of Duty OG. I played all of the Call of Duties back through the early PlayStation eras. I've played them all, even when it was a single-player game. So I know what Call of Duty is supposed to be like, and everybody talks about that golden era of Call of Duty around the Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1 and 2 type time frame. And those certainly were the best Call of Duties ever created, and this game feels much more like those games than Call of Duty has felt like that in a long time. Depending on what type type of player you are, you're going to like the game or potentially dislike the game for a lot of these reasons. One of the biggest points to talk about is the fast time to kill in this game. The TTK is really quick in this game, and so that does kind of lower the skill gap between the very good players and the casual players. And to me, I don't mind that. I like having a fast TTK, and I consider myself a relatively skilled player. Back in the day, whenever I did play this every single day, I had a 3+ KD consistently, and I always had massive winning streaks and a very good score per minute. So I was not a camper. I rushed around, but I played the objective and I did really well lighting up the enemy. However, what I'll say is that since those days, I haven't seen a Call of Duty that has a proper TTK like this, where you can, properly run around and not have to put an entire magazine into one individual opponent before then having to move on to the next thing. And that branches right into the weapons within this game that are all very competitive. There are a few weapons that, here and there aren't very good, but you have a good number of guns in this game that you can utilize and you'll have a good time. I think everybody will find a weapon that gels with them and they'll be able to compete. Everything from assault rifles to sniper rifles to SMGs are very viable within this game. I've even used the combat knife a little bit. I've used shotguns. They are all very, very fun to play with. You will have a very smooth experience pretty much with whatever gun you play with, and there are a lot of unique experiences to be had there. This is one of the first Call of Duty games in a long time that I felt the need to try all of the different guns within the game and actually have a unique and entertaining experience with every single one that I've played so far. Some of them have been tougher to use than others, but for the most part, I find myself being able to compete within games using just about anything at my disposal. And another major point here is that they have nerfed advanced movement. They've taken slide canceling and things like that out of the game, which for me, personally speaking, is an absolute welcome change. Again, the Call of Duty was never meant to be played that way. The only reason that anybody played that way is because everybody's going to try to find whatever competitive advantage they can, especially if you do this on a daily basis as a streamer or a competitive player or whatever. You're going to try any way that you can to find a competitive advantage, and it was never meant to be played like that. Nonetheless, that's going to be a sticking point for a lot of people. So if you like more of the straight up boots on the ground gameplay where you don't have to worry about pressing 90 buttons to slide cancel and move across the map, you're going to like this game. If you want that advanced movement, you're going to have a little bit more trouble with this game. You're not going to like it as much. And again, you're going to feel probably like there's not enough of a skill gap that there has been within prior Call of Duty games. And then I want to move on to the perk system, which in this game I feel like is a little bit lame. They've decided to change the way perks work within this game, where you earn them over time, just naturally through the game, as opposed to having them available to you the entire time. This is something I've gotten used to. Unfortunately, some of the perks are glitched and don't really work the way that they should anyway. Nevertheless, the perk system is just not very good within this game, and that does go hand in hand with a couple of other items, like attachments, for example. Most attachments are going to give you more negatives to your weapons than positives. I've actually run most of my guns within the game with no attachments whatsoever, occasionally putting on one attachment here or there to help me compensate for an area of need with that specific gun. But it's kind of a shame that perks and attachments are an afterthought in this game. They really don't help you in much, if any, way whatsoever. I always have to put in a comment that there is no demolition game mode within this game. It is the best Call of Duty game mode ever created. There is no competition. If you disagree, you're wrong. Period. End of discussion. I don't want to see any comments about it. I'm kidding, of course. I love Demolition as a game mode. In my personal opinion, it is my favorite game mode that they've ever had within Call of Duty. You have set spawns on set sides of the map, so you never run into these issues with players spawning behind you and shooting you in the back. Instead, it is a straight-up team-on-team match where you're going head-to-head, and there's no better way, no more true form of Call of Duty than Demolition. I think next on the agenda would be to discuss the maps, and I don't have a whole lot to say here other than the maps feel like they are properly balanced in the way that I think maps should be balanced within Call of Duty, and that is that they don't funnel you purely into 3 lanes, but the converse is also not true, where the map is not just too random and wide open without funneling you somewhat into lanes to combat each other. And so that is one of the major flaws that Call of Duties always have. They either try to funnel you way too much into these 3 lanes, and they're the only 3 lanes that you can utilize within the game, or they try to give you way too much free reign and open map area, and the spawns get wonky, the gameplay gets wonky, and it's really not a good experience. They might not be the best maps in the world, the design might not be the best in the world, the settings might not be the best in the world, and there are 1 or 2 maps that are just not very good, like the border crossing map that everybody seems to hate, and it seems to be a meme at this point. However, every single one of the maps within this game seems very well balanced between funneling you into areas to compete with each other and not just giving you a wide open expanse that's going to create a horrible gameplay. It's actually very well balanced. They funnel your teams head on against each other for the most part, but they allow you the flexibility to flank. They allow you to play in different ways. They allow you to sit back a little bit or rush a little bit. They allow you to get behind your opponents and things like that, and that is what these maps should do. And just a couple final points here on the multiplayer gameplay end of things is that, number one, kill streaks feel so-so within this game. They're really not that powerful, which in my opinion is not the way Call of Duty is meant to be played. Back in the day, I thought it was the most fun whenever the higher end kill streaks were super powerful and they felt valuable. It felt worth it to put on a 10 or 12 kill streak, and when you got it, you felt like a god within the game. And unfortunately, they don't feel that way within this game. I see a lot of people saying that chopper gunners and things like that are just really not worth it, and that's the simple fact. I mean, the most powerful kill streaks within this game are actually counter UAV and UAV, so that tells you a little bit about what they're trying to do with those within the game. Unfortunately, for me, that's going to be a negative, and I'm not a big fan of that. I wish that they were more powerful on the higher end and incentivize people to go for those higher end kill streaks. And when you are calling in kill streaks, they take too long to call in. I mean, if you have a UAV and a counter UAV and you need to call those both in at the same time, that's going to take upwards of 10 seconds to call them in. You're going to have to go find a corner and hide away for 10 seconds before you're going to be able to get those both off, because it's going to be 3 to 4 seconds to call in the UAV, a time difference in between because you have to wait in between, and then 3 to 4 seconds for a counter UAV. So you're taking way too much time out of your gameplay to actually be able to call in these kill streaks that really aren't that powerful to begin with. It kind of seems like an unnecessarily long animation to be able to utilize those things. With that being said, my final point on multiplayer is that I really do like the camo system within this game. Now, they are much easier to unlock, it seems like, within this game. You'll see a lot of camos unlocking for you by just naturally playing the game. However, what you will also see is that the camos carry over from weapon to weapon, so they'll unlock universally, which I think is a really nice feature and something that I hope that they continue with in future Call of Duties. One thing I forgot to mention earlier, there hasn't really been any revamped content from the original Modern Warfare 2 within this game, which is a big disappointment. I'm sure they're going to be coming out with that stuff as we progress through the various Battle Pass seasons, but I think it's a big failure on their end to not include a couple of classic maps, and that's bringing me to the point of the campaign, which is another, kind of roller coaster ride. I think that the visuals of the campaign were visually stunning. It was a gorgeous campaign with the cutscenes and things like that. Unfortunately, Call of Duty's campaign is, lately at least, notoriously known for not being a very good story, and that's what I can say about this one. The story was meh. It really didn't have me all that engaged or interested, and sometimes kind of confusing to follow along with, and that was the only redeeming quality of it, was the actual cutscenes of it. Unfortunately, the gameplay of the campaign was atrocious. There were multiple times that I found myself glitched or bugged or something. One level I had to restart completely because I got stuck behind a door that wouldn't open and it kept saying it was obstructed, so I had to redo the whole level from the end of the level all the way back to the beginning. Every time I tried to reload it, it would reload me behind the door, and I've seen the same thing happen to other people playing the campaign. So it was really nice to see the progress and the potential that the cutscenes and the cinematics have within this game. I would really like to see a purely single-player Call of Duty game where they really focus on the story and really focus on the single-player aspects and gameplay of it. However, the gameplay itself was pretty crappy, if I'm being honest with you. By the time I finished the campaign, 5.5, 6 hours in, I had a splitting headache, and I was very, very frustrated and just wanted to be done with it because of all of the trouble. And with that, I think it's about time to wrap up this review. There are a lot of very positive aspects to this game, and I keep finding myself wanting to play more. I'm really enjoying this Call of Duty, and so despite the negatives, I'm still going to give this game like an 8.2 or an 82 out of 100, an 8.2 out of 10. It's a game that, in my opinion, is worth picking up right now, and it will be even more worth picking up if you're watching this review once Warzone drops and is available to you and you have that extra potential playability of the game. I think that there's a lot to be desired here with the UI and with original Modern Warfare 2 maps and throwbacks and things like that. I really do feel like they've hit the gameplay nail right on the head. So good job to Infinity Ward for taking us back to a feeling of what Call of Duty should be like, and hopefully they'll be able to keep progressing on this in the various seasons that they release content with, and as they patch the game and improve the UI and things like that. I really do look forward to what they have in store for us over the next couple years. And with that being said, leave all that feedback down below. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys, as always, in the next video, and I hope you have a good one.